This Pitch Breakfast video is brought to you by Spangler and Agins, attorneys for Charlotte's startup community.
I'm really pleased to have both these guys here. They did a great job when we were there. They are both students at the College of Charleston. Have you graduated? Okay, so both students at the College of Charleston, and that's how we originally met. I'm really proud of what we've done, and there's something really neat about Eli Dent here and myself that we have in common. Two things, actually. We both went to the College of Charleston, and secondly, Eli and I were both just featured in the most recent College of Charleston magazine. So Eli was noted for his other company that he's not pitching today called, help me out, Sidekick. And it's, he has created an apparatus for helping train soccer players, right? And it's gotten great traction both here in the U.S. in stores and over in Europe as well. And they spent, you spent time over in Estonia this year getting the business plan up there. So that was really neat. So he was in the College Charleston magazine, and I was very fortunate to be in there as well for, as just telling the story again, as creator and founder of the White River Center. So how about that? So anyway. So we have that in common, and I'm really proud to have those guys here today. Eli Dent and Jack, just Jack, and you like that. And they're going to be pitching txtra today. Thank y'all. Who's going first? Okay.
Hello, I'm Eli.
And I'm Jack.
And we are txtra. We are driving innovation through customer feedback. So by show of hands, how many of us in here have read a customer review before buying a product? Perfect. So national research shows that 90% of consumers read these reviews, which is smart. However, only 5% of people ever actually write them because it takes too much time and too much effort. Well, the good news for your business is that we've eliminated that friction with our patent-pending software that texts your customer, "Hey, Sarah, thanks for your business. How many stars would you give us?" Sarah then taps a number 1 through 5, and txtra automatically responds to get her feedback. So that's exactly how txtra works, and
that's how easy it is to get a review. Our target market is essentially any business who would benefit from having more customer testimonials. We've seen the most success in online retail space as we've integrated with Shopify, but we've proven just as valuable to brick and mortar businesses from car dealerships to doctor's offices. There are already several applications that exist who are designed to capture customer feedback for you, but the problem with our competition is that most of them are extremely expensive and none of them show any innovation in how they actually work. txtra is the first customer review collection software to market that actually collects a star rating over easy-to-use SMS. Our team is comprised of 2 full-stack developers as well as a sales manager who work alongside Eli and myself, who manage business development with a board of advisors. We originally estimated our monthly cost to be about $2,000 per month, but over the Q3 and Q4 of 2017, we only spent about $300 a month, which was obviously very valuable to the business in the long term. We still have seed money remaining from a Charleston pitch competition, and we are currently seeking partnerships and investments.
with our first ever published review, we helped to generate an $800 sale for one of our clients, and that's what we like to call going the txtra mile for your customers. Thank you.
So good job squeezing a lot in. It's hard with 2 people especially, so you handled the handoff well. I wasn't sure that was going to work. It's pretty easy to understand how your product works, which is a good thing, especially for a 2-minute pitch, as you heard us talk about. One thing that didn't come through is how you get paid for it. What's your model?
Sure. So I'll touch on that. So like Jack mentioned, we are starting out mainly in e-commerce. So Shopify is a big e-commerce platform. We've integrated our software with them, and most of our clients initially will be coming from e-commerce business owners that will subscribe. It's a subscription fee, and that model will adjust based on the volume that our clients receive. So if they're selling 1,000 products a month, that's 1,000 requests for reviews. That's going to be a lot more per month than someone that's selling 100 products a month.
And how are you acquiring customers today?
So, we're still in the development process, like Jack mentioned, and we've got a sales manager on who's going to help us kind of really branch out to those brick and mortar stores that Jack was mentioning. So a lot of it's going to be, knocking on doors, but also through our e-commerce efforts and advertising online. Another benefit and a value proposition to our product is that not only do we help get a review, but that review is also then generated to be postable to social media for the businesses in real time. So now, a review is becoming more of a marketing tool as well. So we'll be generating a lot of awareness through online and social media as well to gain customers.
Yeah, so just to clarify the first thing you said, and the majority of our online retail customers, our clients, will be coming from online advertising and a sort of an auto sign-up process where you just put in your credit card information and get logged in. And then our sales team is going to be focused primarily on the brick and mortar the businesses that require a little bit more of a sign-up process and customization as we get it going.
And why do you think the brick and mortar businesses are worth going after for this type of product?
Well, brick and mortar businesses represent probably 95% of the possibilities for txtra. Like I said, this can go from anything from the health industry to car dealerships to home pest control. We even have a client in that space. And so in order to reach all of these other possible markets, which is essentially any business, like I was saying, that needs more customer feedback, it requires more of a sales team, and that's why we're going after that.
I would also like to tack onto that. Retail, physical brick and mortar retail is kind of, experiencing a little bit more of a downfall with Amazon and this increase of, everybody can get anything online now. And so it's even more imperative that they try and get more awareness online through customer reviews that can help generate more traffic and more sales. I mean, there's statistics that say you trust a customer review more than you would trust your neighbor, which is ridiculous. But so it's even more valuable to a brick and mortar than it maybe would be to an e-commerce who's also open to many more applications that they could potentially have.
So I just want. So related to that, you heard David say to one of the earlier presenters that it's helpful and important to define the area you're serving well, especially as a very small, very early stage company. And to say you're serving brick and mortar, that is a huge ocean of retail. And a Macy's is very different from Nancy's card shop.
Sure.
And so I would suggest that you want to think about that and narrow that down, because it's entirely different selling to enterprise retail, which I would suggest you don't want to try and do.
Sure.
But it's also very different selling to the SMBs of retail, like
Sure.
David's bike shops, because the reality is most of them, they have very little money to spend, and they have very little capability to even implement something simple like this.
Sure.
So you can throw away a lot of sales and marketing money chasing those types of folks if you don't do it effectively.
Thank you for the feedback.
Great presentation, and obviously there's a need. I think immediately, any of us here would think, oh, well, I had my car oil changed, and I get an email wanting to rate it, which, by the way, a lot of them are very cumbersome. I've been
Sure.
through them myself, and I said, screw this, I'm not
Right.
doing this anymore.
Exactly.
My question in the brick and mortar, though, is if I go to Macy's and I make a purchase, how are you going to text me?
And that's a good answer. So that would actually be where we more clearly define what the brick and mortar right that we're going after. So more of the brick and mortar we go after would probably be a service provider, like Gerald's Tires, or your local car salesman. Something where you build. You actually have to give information. Because otherwise, when it comes to just a simple, like, oh, I'm going to go buy, a new wallet and swipe my card, it's going to be a lot more difficult to get their numbers right. So really, we're going to be targeting more of a service provider. So we should have mentioned that, I think, as well.
Is it one question?
It is, yeah. It is, hey, Lister, how did you like our pitch on a scale of 1 to 5? And you one number. Yeah.
And it can become more complex than that. I mean, and that's up to the business owner and what they want to see as well. But we do follow up with, after we get a star rating, which is very valuable for the mass consumer market. We will follow up and say, great, why, or how did what do you mean by that? And then that gives, you can either respond or not. And it's not we have come across questions of will it spam? You know, is it going to be texting me all the time? And the answer is no. It's just that first interaction. So that's the intention.
Yeah, I do. I had the same comment that John had. In order to establish credibility, one of the things that you typically, especially a startup, you have to narrow down the market, because if you don't, you sound like you don't know what you're talking about. You sound like you're just another entrepreneur who hasn't done enough homework. So what allows you to show off a little bit is to sort of describe your niche. Even if that niche is big, but if you provide enough boundaries that people can understand it, you're not only talking about your market, but at the same time, you're sending a signal to an investor, I know what I'm talking about. And even though, and that's especially important for somebody in college still, right? Because you're gonna come across as somebody who is inexperienced just because of your age. So it's especially important for you to show credibility. You can't say, I worked at Google, right? And that alone maybe helps you, but that's important. I also think, I still have a question about who your customer is. To me, that's the big question. We have seen pitches of companies doing exactly like what you're doing several times. And one of the questions I have is, companies who actually are good enough to collect phone or email are probably savvy enough to send a text or send an email. In fact, they're doing that already. And so I wonder whether they need you. Companies who are not doing that, they need you, but then if they're not able to collect that information, how are you going to text, how are you going to email? So I'm not sure that I understand how you're helping them. Maybe I missed something. So there is a vacuum there in my understanding of the companies that you can help with. Maybe there's difficult for you to work with at the same time. And I would love to you to explain that a little bit more. And then the last question I would have is, you need to think about what kind of company you want to build, because it's not clear to me what kind of company you're trying to build. And that is related to who you want to sell to, but also is related to, do you want to even pitch for an investment? You can build a great business locally, selling to mom and pops around the street, Charlotte or Charleston, whatever, and make a great living and own 100% of your company. When you're pitching to investors, you got to decide, okay, do I want to bring on partners, give away part of the control of the company, give away my company, and then I'm not in full control. But then that means you got to make sure that you are building a certain type of company. And I'm not sure which one you're going to build, which one you're trying to build. But if you're going to pitch to investors, you definitely have to sort of do other things that are not just, this is a good business. It's got to be a highly scalable business that is differentiated, and you got to convince people of that. So maybe you can answer the question I was asking about how you help a customer with the technology. Can you help a customer that will be your customer?
Sure. So great question about the market and who our customer is and how we're really helping out. So as we've kind of grown over the past 8 months, that model's changed as we identify who needs it, what niche is really going to be the most valuable that we can offer. And initially, there's 300,000 e-commerce business owners on the Shopify platforms. That's our initial target market. Our business owners, e-commerce that need awareness online, that need feedback to continue growing. So it's more of a small, medium-sized online business is our initial market. And then from there, we are in a phase of where identifying, there is a need there because we've interviewed businesses. We have a few clients that work e-commerce and they find a lot of value in it. So we know for a fact it is there. But we've also received a lot of feedback from previous pitches where, hey, I need more reviews for my business because we don't have we need more people to come in and we need visibility online. And so that's where we've started to branch out into these more brick and mortar opportunities, which maybe we should have defined that clearer in the pitch. Your other question.
Well, I think be careful with the feedback that you hear, including ours, by the way.
Thank you.
And I would tell anybody that if you hear something once, we just got to be really cautious and careful. Don't just jump and do it.
Sure.
You got to be committed to what you're doing. But if you hear something 15 times,
Sure.
maybe there's something to that.
Sure.
But the same thing with customers. If a customer tells you I need this, doesn't mean that you're going to turn around and build it right away.
Right.
So I would wonder whether the brick and mortar thing is just something that you're doing too quickly, because maybe it's really hard to, how are you going to sell to those people? The Shopify, I completely get. It's very easy to, they get the information and they have the you can reach them quickly and efficiently.
Yeah, I think the point is about segmentation of the customer opportunity, because to the point John made is I have a bike shop. I know how many emails I have. I know how many phone numbers I have.
Sure.
I can go do it right now.
Sure.
And it doesn't break your patent, because all I've done is taken the emails and said, rate us on a 1 to 5. So how do you compete with that?
Right. So email is a lot different than a text message in a lot of ways, right?
Well, I've got their phone numbers.
So you have their phone numbers, right? But if you were to say, okay, I need to get feedback, I'll just send an email. It's different from an email, right? Because an email, you can blast email all of your customers. You can't really do that with a text message unless we can help you service that.
I'm just saying I can send a text message.
Okay, sure. So you could send a text message to 500 clients and you could get all that feedback back. But where does that feedback go from there other than your phone?
It goes to my website to talk about how many customers out of my customer base rate us as a 5. That's what you're doing, right?
Well, it's a lot more difficult to do that in a credible way, to take feedback you get personally from a cell phone, right, and then import that into a customer's feedback generated on a review. That's the technical aspect that isn't available right now.
A lot of the clients that we've worked with in the past don't have the perseverance that you seem to have to go through all these steps to make that happen.
I think that's part of
They'd
the
rather pay $10 a month.
It just is itchy. It just wants to come out. So sorry. But I think the point that he's making is great, and the point that David made is very similar. If you think about your technology or what you're doing and think about the technology too much and the platform, then I think you're missing the point and you're failing to make it sustainable. Because any technology is going to be replaced eventually. If you think about the text, the SMS, if you think about your segment or your customer, and then you solve their problem in many ways, and the technology that you use today and maybe tomorrow may be different. In the way in which you pitched it, you came away showing us that the focus is on your technology first. If you have a more customer-centric pitch, then the technology doesn't matter, right? That you're solving all their problems in any way in which you can. You address the points that the gentleman made and the points that David is making. I think that it's going to be more sustainable. It's going to give you a better business too.